like you mentioned the runners, right? Like the most CrossFitters, especially back then, were like not that interested. And it's still an 8K of running, so it's almost 5 miles of running, which is quite a bit. We've seen some women come in who have a CrossFit background. The world champion is Lauren Weeks. She participated at like a regionals team.
Mhm.
Michaela Norman, who was the North American champion and got second at the European Championship. She was on CrossFit Nordic last year. I think they were like 17th at the games or something like
Yep.
that. Um, I guess my question for you is, do you feel that like on the guys' side that's possible as well? We haven't seen men come in and do very well in like the high rock space, but on the women's side, the transition seems to be a little bit easier. I don't know if it's just like those are two special cases that we've seen and we have not seen that on the men's, or if it's just a different kind of sport.
So we've kind of talked about that just even in CrossFit in general. Like it seems like the transition, we've talked a lot about teen athletes transitioning into the elite division,
Mm,
and it's been easier for the women, right? The men, when they graduate out of the teen division that ends at 17 years old, very few are competitive in the elite division at 18.
mm,
And it takes that specialization, the extra training, growing into your body of the requisite strength as a male athlete, I think. Whereas the women, the strength isn't fully developed there. And so I get a sense that it's probably the same thing in HYROX, maybe just a little bit different, right? Like the guys that do CrossFit, they have to be super strong, right? There's very few small sprinters who are good on the men's side. The women's side, up until this year, Haley Adams, she did great. She went straight from teen division into the elite competition. I think she finished seventh at the games last year. She's fast. Like she's her strength is her weakness,
mm-hmm.
but she beats everybody else on anything endurance based, longer domains. Like she'd be a good one that could probably go into high rocks and do well. There just isn't that on the men's side because they're asking them to go clean and jerk 400 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or have a 300-pound snatch, which is so far out of the realm of possibility for the average guy, right? Like the women, yes, they're snatching big weight, right? But it's not the same, right? Women are snatching 180 pounds. It's if you have that type of capacity, you can compete. Whereas the guys, the strength is just the top end strength is so far out there that if you're a fast sprinter runner, you're probably not going to be on the at the games level. And there's always going to be exceptions to that, but um, I think you'll see some who have tried CrossFit that will enter that space in the next year or two. Whether they'll be as competitive as Hunter, I don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you could see a couple make it into maybe the elite group.
Well, that's probably also why Hunter, his success in CrossFit is very low, right? He's kind of come at it from a different way where it was very much endurance building and base and an endurance sport, and then try to come into CrossFit where like a lot of these guys have probably been lifting weights since they were like, 14 years old, right? Playing different sports.
Somewhat. I mean, Hunter would probably say like the skill based stuff, like it takes a long time to get really good at that, especially at the elite level. Mobility, again, like his snatch, when he went in 2019, he did well in the first event. The second event was handstand walking,
Mm-hmm.
and like it just crushed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so, and also like Hunters, I think, has said in the past that training for the CrossFit Games would just beat him up too much. Like his body would just wear down. Whereas he can probably compete for a long time doing Spartan races, doing high rocks and those things, where it's not going to be as brutal to your body.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because a couple of uh, games athletes have come in and tried on the men's side, and they're kind of like in the middle. They'll be under
Right.
70, 67, but it's just like the running is so much. And you're
Yeah.
probably right. Like, in order to snatch 280, there's just going to be a required amount of mass, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like,
Do you
then
do,
you get to a point.
do you think that if the prize money got big enough, Brian, like let's just say they jacked it up, that guys that had even a little bit of running capacity would be like, you know what? I'm I'd rather go like win this sport than be seventh at the games or 15th at the
I
region. You know
mean,
what I mean?
if you match the prize purse, which I think is like 325 this year.
I'm not
Yeah,
asking to match it. That's a lot. I'm
But
just
no,
saying
let's match it. Come on.
but I'm saying like if you had that, I think you would see more people attempt whether they could actually win that money. I think it would be they're a few years off from that, but you may see some fringe athletes who were close to maybe the games who um, could be there. I mean, there were some guys back in the day who um, Helen, which is 3 rounds of run 400 meters, 21 pull or 12 pull-ups, 21 kettlebell swings. Like there were some guys that were putting out outrageous times on that in CrossFit. Like, so they have the ability to run fast. Now that's only 400 meters 3 times, but they show that capacity there. Um, so I think they have to have a reason to maybe try to take the jump to move to that sport. And right now, I don't see that they have that push to get there. Right? They
Yeah.
enjoy CrossFit. They enjoy it. They do well in it. They're successful, maybe not game successful, but do they want to try and change? Because it does take more specific type training for HYROX than it does for CrossFit, right? You're going to put away the barbell and you're going to do more running and more grunt work type stuff and
right,
those elements.
but that guy or gal that, like I said, is already leaning that way. I mean, they already were like the person that everybody in their gym knows can be a decent runner, right?
Mhm.
Or like, Hunter used to always invite, Jacob and what's his name?
Chandler Smith.
Yeah, Chandler to all the events because like they had the capacity at least to run a half marathon, right? That
Yeah.
if there's those guys and they're, like I said, like 20th at regionals or whatever. And so like, yeah, they're better than 99% of the population, but like, wait a minute, I could go do that and there's a little bit of money and it looks like it could be my bag. I just, you know what I'm saying? It seems like people like to go where they can succeed, right? Or that feels like a new challenge because they've been doing CrossFit for X amount of years. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough. The running aspect of it, I think, would crush a lot of the CrossFitters right now. Not to say that they couldn't, but I think overall, they take off for that first 1K run and they'd be like, holy shit, like I just, you know, that these guys can really run. And I don't know if there's enough ability to make up that lost on the time lost on the run on the non-running movements to be competitive yet. Especially when the HYROX guys themselves, that's what they're focusing on, right? There's so much room for improvement on the non-running piece. I'm not sure who can get there faster, right? Can I run faster and make that improvement first, or can the HYROX guys make an improvement first to stay ahead of them on the non-running piece?
Yeah,
Rich,
probably the latter.
If we take Hunter out, okay,
Uh-huh.
and we look at who was second this year,
Alex Ronkovich.
Alex Ron. So what's his like, I don't know, 5K time, or like where does somebody need to be?
I would say so. Someone like Alex, who is a bigger, stronger athlete, his 5K, I don't. I bet it's 17:30. I bet it's not maybe 18 flat, which from a CrossFit perspective is pretty fast, but from a runner perspective is like fairly mediocre.
That's what I'm kind of trying to get at is like where the gap is and how far before, because Hunter's a freak of nature, we know that, right? So assuming he eventually retires, like kind of the next guys up, and the guys are going to
Yeah,
get better. Obviously, they're all going to get better.
yeah, Brian. If there was a 5K run at the games on the men's side, what do you think would and like say? I know that they
Well,
always game it
They did it that one time. Remember?
a full on 5K.
They did a 10. They did a 10K.
Just run?
No, they've never done anything that was no.
I can't believe how poor your memory is.
I don't know. I don't know, Matt. I'm gonna agree with Brian here. There may have been like some sort of mixed.
They
modal,
always
triple
change
three.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
They don't want to do. They don't have to do apples to apples stuff because, like, if you did a 10K, you'd be like, "Oh my god, they ran a 10K in like 43 minutes." Everybody'd be like, "That's really not."
How
that
can
good.
you not remember the COVID year when they sent them out for a 5K and then they got back and they sent them out for another 5K?
The trail.
But it's a trail. Like that was brutal. If you've ever been out to the ranch, that's not true. A 5K.
I'm sure it was brutal. I was just saying it's not that they've never done it. It's rare.
Yeah, but
it's always different.
But there's parts where parts where you're climbing. Like it is not a 5K road race,
it's like
or even a 5K.
There.
Yeah, I mean, you're sliding down a little bit of a hill. You're climbing up the ravine. Like
That's what obstacle racing is, though. That's what we do every week.
It is a lot. That was more OCR running than road running.